I'm Tandy, I blog over at Lavender and Lime. I create as many original recipes as I can, and I do a lot of food and lifestyle blogging, so restaurant reviews. I was quite excited to get the first mystery box. This is for the appetizer or starter course, and I was told it had to be refrigerated, so I was kind of hoping for fish because I had a whole recipe in my head already with fish and bread. I'm quite excited to open and see what's in the box. I have yum taste blue ribbon toaster white bread, and we have clover cream, mozzarella cheese, half a dozen eggs, some spring onions, and 100 grams of asparagus. I think I'm going to make an asparagus soup with poached egg and some cheesy toast, so that'll be a really nice starter light. I'm just really going to cut the tips off. Those aside so I can blanch them when the water's ready, and then I'm just going to chop the rest of the asparagus. Take 3 spring onions, take the greens off one of them, slice them up nice and finely. I'm putting 5 mils of canola oil into my pan. I'm just going to let that heat up. While those are sweating off, I can chop the rest of my spring onions. I'm just going to try and get as much out of these as possible. I'm using 3 for my soup. Okay, so I've got the greens of the onions fairly soft. I'm going to saute off those greens. Just another 5 mils. Okay. Add in the whites of the spring onions, which have been nicely sliced. Saute off until they're nice and soft. Then add 1 clove of garlic. You don't want to add garlic too soon into the pot. I'm going to turn the heat down slightly while I get the rest of the ingredients in. So I've got the asparagus tips. I love cooking with bay leaves. I think they add such a depth of flavour. I want to put half a cup of water in. I use an OXO jug. You can look from the top and you don't have to bend down. Well, I've just taken a stalk of fresh tarragon and I'm just picking the leaves. Hold it at the top, pull it down and give it one more stir. I'm going to reduce the heat down to a simmer, and I'm basically going to ignore it for 5 or 10 minutes. Before I blanch the asparagus tips, I need to create an ice bath so that they retain their freshness and their greenness. So just a bowl of water, handful of ice into it, throw the asparagus tips into the water, and literally within seconds the water is going to come back up to the boil. Straight into the ice bath. Okay, so I've got my soup underway. The next thing I want to do is get onto my cheesy toast. I need 50 grams of mozzarella, and as soon as I've done that, I've added 15 mils of cream into the cheese, and I'm going to put a slice of bread into the toaster so that it toasts up ready for my grilling. Next I've got to melt the cheese. As soon as I've got it melted, I'm going to add in the greens from the spring onion that was sauteed off. I'm going to mix that in. Add in a tiny pinch of cayenne pepper, stir that all together. And I'm just going to get the cheese out of the pot and just spread it with the back of my spoon. And that can now go under the grill. See that the soup looks fine, and I'm going to season it. I don't use a lot of pepper because I use an organic pepper. It's a lot stronger. And I'm going to be very generous with the salt. Take them out. You don't want to blitz up the bay leaves. And now I'm going to blitz the soup up. Grill the cheese for 5 minutes and take it out. So I've got these little poaching pods. I'm just lightly oiling them. I'm hoping that this will prevent the egg from cracking. I've got my eggs, and I just take 1 egg and I crack it against the other. If the shell's properly cracked, the yolk won't break. And I'm going to use the slotted spoon to gently and carefully put my eggs into the water. And straight away put the lid back on. I've got a chinois. You don't need to go out and buy a fancy sieve, but I really want the soup to be as fine as possible. I'm going to give it a good stir. And I'm going to be left with a really fine soup. And this is basically a case of just being gentle, making sure we don't get water and getting them out of the poaching liquid. And here I have what is hopefully a perfectly poached egg. So I've got the cheese off the silpat. Once again, this is only for presentation purposes. I just need to go through it with a knife. So I'm using a silicone spatula so that a knife doesn't cut it. Just gently rolling it around, pop it out onto the toast. I have fancy chef's tweezers. I'm using them to pick up the asparagus spears, just placing them around. And then basically we're going to pour the soup gently around the toast. Tiny little bit of flaked salt. I keep fresh thyme in my kitchen. And the same thing, I'm just going to pick the leaves by running my fingers down. And I'm going to pop a few of those leaves onto the finished dish. All that's left to do is taste the soup. I'm going to grab some of that cheesy toast, which is still nice and crisp, get some of the soup and a bit of asparagus, and have a taste. Asparagus comes through really nicely, and to me, this is Sunday night dinner at its best. Perfect comfort food.